Shabbos Daf Kufnum Beis. We're continuing with the Psukim in Koheles that describe a person as he gets older. Says the pasuk that when a person gets older, his flanks, his ribs, his legs, everything deteriorates. His teeth stop grinding. His eyesight gets worse. His gizzard doesn't grind the food. An older person wakes up from the slight sound of a bird. Songs of the boys and the girls annoy him. R Eli Stefansky, who saved David HaMelech tells him, "Come live with me in Yerushalayim." He says, "I can't. I'm too old. I'm 80 years old." You see from here that as a person gets older, he starts losing his mind a little bit. He loses his taste in his mouth. His hearing goes. On the other hand, you see that Rebbe had a Amma who she was 92 years old and she was able to taste the food and tell Rebbe whether it was good or not. Says Rava, R Eli was full of znus, so therefore you become older quicker. The Caesar told Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, "Why don't you come to Beit Avidan as we had earlier? This Beit Avidan, it's a debate hall. Come debate us." Says Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, "I can't. The mountain has snow on it," referring to his head. He has white hair. The surroundings have ice, meaning his mustache. The dog doesn't bark. He doesn't have a voice. The teeth don't grind. He's getting older. An older person bends over as if he's searching for something on the ground, but in fact it's his spine that's deteriorating. 2 is better than 3, referring to 2 legs is better than walking with a cane. And it's a shame on the younger years that disappear and go away and don't come back. When you're younger, it's like good smelling roses, and when you're older, it's like disgusting smelling chilfa, which is nettle. When you chew your food, you still have a bounce in your step. Until 40, food is good for the body. From 40 on, drink is good. There was a debate, a saris, one who can't have children, told, and he was a tzduki as well, he asked Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, he says, "From where I'm standing until the baldness, how far is it?" In other words, he was poking fun at Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, as his name indicates that he was bald. So Rabbi Shua says, it's as far as from here to Sirusville. In other words, you're a saris, you shouldn't be talking. So he tells him, a goat cost 4. In other words, the bald one, a goat is a bald sheep, only costs 4. So he says, you know what? A goat that's a saris actually costs 8. So the Duki tells him, you don't have shoes, you're worth less than a dead person. So he says back to him, hadras panim, to have a hadras panim is to have a beard, to have simcha in your life is to have a wife, and to have inheritance from a Kodesh Baruch is to have children. You don't have all 3 of these. Rebbe asked Rishon Gamliel, "Why didn't you come visit me on Yantif, like your forefathers did?" And he said, the small stones became like mountains. In other words, I'm getting older, everything seems larger and harder. The closeness seems like it's far. 2 became 3, I have a cane. And I don't have taiva anymore, so I can't make up with my wife, and therefore I can't come. When a person, a Talmid Chacham, gets older, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him extra das, extra seichel, and when Am Haaretz gets older, he becomes more of a tippish as time goes on. An older person, his hip is visible, it sticks out, his rear becomes like a burden to him, he loses his taiva. As they were reading these psukim to Rav let out a groan, oi! And the Gemara says, Shma mina, you see from here that he actually lost his taiva. Ki hu amar vayehi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded that there should be taivas nashim, even though logically it doesn't make any sense. It's a body full of waste and blood. Hu tziva v'yamoid, and he created, we have children, and through the children, that's why we have taiva. Others explain the children are very difficult to rear and raise. HaKadosh Baruch Hu instilled in us a taiva for them nevertheless. Ki hoylech adam al beis olamai, each person when he comes up to Olam HaEmes has his place. He's designated room. It's not like we all get to sit with Avraham Avinu, Moshe Rabbeinu, Rebbe Akiva. We sit where we belong. Like a king, says the Gemara, who comes with all his servants, when he comes into the city, he comes in together with them. But once he goes to the hotel, the king gets the presidential suite, everybody else gets a simpler room. Znus causes a face to become darker as a person gets older. A worm on a dead person feels it as if he was poked with a needle. The soul of a person, the nefesh ha'adam, sits and has a velos on the body for 7 days. If a person doesn't have someone to be menachem, to do avelos. He died without any family, so it's a mitzvah to sit there in the place that he died and bring 10 people. Rav Yehuda did so, and the person came to him in a dream and said, you should have menuchas hanefesh because you gave me menuchas hanefesh. A dead person hears everything that's going on, according to one shita, until they put the dirt, the goylel on the coffin, and some people say, until the body decomposes. Give back your neshama to the Rebbeinu Shalom like he gave it to you nice and clean. Mashal to a person, to a king, who gave his servants Bigdei Melech. He gave him his own clothing. The smart ones folded it up and put it away. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu called them, they put it on and it was nice and clean and ironed. The not so smart ones, they wore their clothing and they went to work and it was filthy. And the king locked them up. So to HaKadosh Baruch Hu will lock up those Rishonim who soiled the neshama that he gives them, put them in Gehenna. Tzadikim, their neshama goes under the kisei hakavod. The Rishonim get kavakela, they're thrown with a slingshot from one side of the world. They don't have menuchas hanefesh. The Beinonim go to the malach called Duma. He's in charge of the dead, just like a Rasha goes to Duma. But a Beinoni, a middle, the average guy, even though he goes to Duma, he has menucha. Rav Mari says, tzadikim turn into dust. The Gemara tells us a story that they dug in Rav Nachman's backyard and they heard somebody groaning. Rav Nachman came to check it out and he found out that it's Rav Achai Bar Yoshin. He says, shouldn't you be dust? And he says, whoever taught you koheles didn't teach you mishlei. What causes dust? Jealousy. V'rekav atzom is kina. So he said, so come into my house, let's have a coffee. And he says, don't you know Navi? I see you don't even know Navi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that decides if we come out. We can't just come out of our grave. But what about the pasuk? Shouldn't you be dust? He says, yes. One moment before Tchias HaMeisim, I will turn into dust. But until then, I will be whole. Have a wonderful day.